Hey guys, good afternoon. So I just want to jump into this really quickly. This is QQQ. Remember I started that position yesterday. Basically at the bottom here, kind of in this middle range between this NWOG, right, this new weekly opening gap. And we had that big rejection obviously off the top of that, which was that dark pool print. That was the gap fill. And for the most part, it was an inside day. We just traded within the confines of that NWOG. If we go to the 15 minute, you guys can see just, oh, sorry, wrong button. Pretty much just a choppy day. Nothing much really happened today. And then right into the close in this general area here I did add some additional contracts into the two that I had. So I do have some decent exposure into the weekend. I have about 15 contracts here. Really, we're just kind of hoping for a downside move, right? That's what we're looking for. Ideally, we can get a gap down on Monday. Ideally, back down underneath this 493.36 spot. And we basically have confirmation that this is like right around the right trade down here, right? If we can basically push into this gap up that we had, that would technically be at 491.35 for the gap fill. If we can get a push down though, something like this, I would feel pretty confident if we can go like that and then just kind of trade down into this lower range. And sorry, once again, I switched to a white background because there's a lot of glare coming through, but something like that. This would be ideal. Then once again, right, if we can kind of break down underneath that spot there, let me clean this up just a tad. If we start to slide underneath that NWOG, we push towards this once again, this lower 491 spot. I think we can really start to sink down to 488.28. I mentioned this multiple times. Underneath that 488.28, which is this gap low now, right? This is kind of like our progression gap that we're looking at. I think that we can easily get a move like this, bounce off of that, maybe retest 491, or we just kind of melt through, but I'll just draw this out for the sake of it, and we get a break under, maybe a retest of that, and then I think we push down into this signature print here at 481. And really, I told you guys that this is where it starts to get exciting, is if we can somehow trade down into this 478.83. If we can somehow get here, maybe get a lower high, but ideally we break underneath and retest this, I would add even more size. I'd probably get in with another strike. What is this? Oh, there we go. Make that black. That would kind of be the ideal spot where I'd go super heavy. I'd probably go over 100 contracts and kind of tighten up my expiration date because it has pretty thin range to make its way down to this pre-market and dark pool print at 471. But so far, I mean, we've seen this happen time and time again, where a lot of these names have pushed up to these prints, like the dark pool print via pre-market as well as like signature prints that we've seen on TradyTix, and then kind of sell off from there. The most recent one that we saw was TSM. Right, remember when TSM had that big gap up into that level up here? It was like right around that 186, 187 spot. From there, we literally saw an immediate meltdown, basically 10%, right? So that's the first one that comes to mind. I'm sure there's other ones that I can't think of right now, but these usually work out to the downside once they end up hitting them as targets. So I'm definitely thinking that we sell down, and the risk is really easy, guys. I don't think this is a risky trade per se. It's going to be essentially the top right here, right? 496.34. That's the top of that gap. So if we gap up above this on Monday, I'll probably just close out of these and then really just not really focus on the downside at all. I'll just kind of watch what is it? AMD. I took some ads into this one, or I didn't add into this one. I don't know what I'm saying. I was going to add, but just decided to hold these basically against this Tuesday low, right off that trend line, as well as the 50-day. Right, we have the 50-day like right here. 10 contracts isn't a lot of size for me, so I just felt like I would just hold this until their earnings, to be honest. Unless we reclaim 162, let's say we do something crazy, retest that, I think that would get in, add some more size. And really, I think that this is creating a pretty easy pathway for a move back up into this right here, which would be that kind of, it's not an NWOG necessarily because we didn't have the opening gap right there, but it's a very easy gap I think that this can trade back up towards and then reject it and then base 162, and then that's the entry for additional size. So definitely watching this one. Although didn't add into that one. MU though, I did start this today. This looked decently good. Color's going to be a little bit off here, but once again, I'll just correct these really quickly. There we go. And I drew this out. This is kind of the ideal situation or idea behind it. Basically hit the higher high, sell back down on low and decreased volume, and retest this old weekly spot, right? Weekly, daily. You guys can see this was that earnings print. Once again, support, potential support, and then it retested, rejected, broke down, finally got, eventually got that pop that we talked about and kind of sold through, retested it, rejected, and then now we got a gap above and it's pulling back. So good entry here off 108.78 or just this general area, and I would just continue to add if it keeps going down into 108.78, and then I would risk that probably like on the weekly. Once again, very similar to TSM though. I'm going to be flexible with this one, guys. I'll probably let the 9 and the 21 catch up to this. Ideally, we just get some consolidation, which is why I drew this out this way. And then from there, we want to see a pop, retest the top of that, right? That gap, which would be a 111, I want to say. Yeah, 111 something. Let's go make these black. Yeah, 111 flat, and then from there, another big pop. We want to see it break above this high, base that, and then kind of continue its trajectory towards that 127, 130 target, okay? So that's one other position. Whatchamacallit, crowd, the other big one that I've been talking about forever. Just an inside day, right? Just kind of resting here above that breakout. I wouldn't say this is the breakout candle necessarily, but this Wednesday candle was very, very good, and in the sense that it caught a bid right where it needed to, and then we had a continuation on Thursday. So Friday, just a rest day here. Once again, I'm still willing to add on anything that kind of pulls back into the EMAs here. It doesn't have to be as strict now against this 302, 300 level. I wanted to get an entry here, which I did. That was as strict as I wanted to be. But anything else, I'll just kind of add into to the EMAs here, right? Especially the 9. But this chart looks super healthy. Not much to say here, guys. Really, not much to say at all. Let's keep that line because I think this is important. That Wednesday, or what is that, Wednesday? Yeah, that Wednesday kind of close is pretty important in my opinion. But pretty much just going to add against the EMAs here. I would expect another pop off these inside bars for a move up into this gap here, right? And we've talked about this time and time again. Just going to hold what I have and take trims into 316. So as soon as we get this pop, I'm going to take another portion of my position off. I'll be at runners at that point, but then ideally, right, we kind of, let me redraw this. We get a pop here, base, and then a continuation up into fill the gap, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Not much else, right? I mean, the only thing I can really talk about is if we get some kind of pullback in the EMAs, I'll add into this again. But as of now, I'm about half position and kind of just waiting, right? So just kind of waiting. And yeah, really that's kind of it, and that's all I wanted to talk about. I talked a lot about this week that QQQ short, just because we are going into that window of weakness. This was OPEX, but now we have a 2-week period where we do have potential weakness with the lack of flow that's happening until the election, right? So we have, a good probability, and we've been seeing a lot of dark pools kind of come in via trading ticks that are bidding down, right? And we're seeing a lack of volume here at the highs in terms of buyers. We're seeing a lot of the high volume prints actually be selling, right? And we're not really moving. We're being pretty stagnant in this general range right at this gap. So odds are, in my opinion, are that we sell. And it just felt like a good risk here. So if we do sell, right, it's important as we make our way down to be looking at names that are relatively strong, right? It's very important, or things that are selling off with controlled volume, even if the market's selling off and that name's selling off. Make sure it stays controlled, make sure it's retesting previous highs or pulling back into gaps and things like that. And you can pick and choose whatever you guys want. I obviously have a select amount of names that I'm looking at. But anything that has relative strength, anything that's kind of pulling back into previous levels are valid during this pullback. And if you guys want to participate on the short side, absolutely fine. If you guys don't want to, absolutely fine. It's all up to you guys. But this is kind of what I'm seeing. And then from there, once I'm finished with this short, that's kind of what I'm doing. If you guys can't tell, I'm pairing a short dated put that's kind of centered around the election dates. And then I'm trying to get calls long dated for post-election, right? So like January, February of next year, December, things like that, right? And anything else that's kind of shorter than that, I do have light size. But yeah, I'm trying to time this pretty well, and I do think this could play out here. So I'm excited for Monday, excited to see how these next 2 weeks play out. I'm excited to have elections finally hit and pass, and I think a lot of people are going to get stopped out, in my opinion, on this downside move. But we will see. I'm positioned either way. So that's really it. Just wanted to do a quick little recap here, kind of talk over everything. And that's really it. Hope everyone did good. Once again, I'm going to repeat it again. Just stay alive till elections are over. Try to get to that December, January period. If you guys can make it there, I think everyone will be fine. So don't blow the accounts. Be safe. All right, guys.